Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to the final coverage video for E3 2018. As we've now covered all the conferences, let's talk about E3 as a whole. Because I've had this discussion with a couple of people already, and the bottom line is that a lot of people are disappointed, and rightly so. Overall, E3 2018 was an underwhelming conference, or an underwhelming event. There wasn't a whole lot to reveal. There wasn't a whole lot to go over. And the reveals that they did have, while they were awesome, most of them were for 2019, and some of them were for holidays, but it was stuff that we'd already seen. So, while I will give some compliments to some of the panels, overall, E3 2018 was a pretty underwhelming year. I'm actually starting to believe a lot of people's opinions on the matter of, like, E3 conventions are kind of like Star Trek movies, where every even one is good and every odd one is bad, except it's the reverse for E3. Every even numbered year is bad, and every odd numbered year is fairly good. And I think there's evidence to that. I really do. I think that there's actually a lot of proof to be able to say, yeah, that could be the case here, and it does kind of make sense for it in a silly, weird way, but that's just kind of the issue. E3 2018 was pretty underwhelming. If I am going to hand out awards, though, here's what I would basically do. For the console makers, here's how basically things would stand. At third place, I would put Sony. At third place, I would put Sony. At second place, I would put Nintendo. And first place, I would give to Microsoft. And I already have a feeling like Sony fanboys are going to jump down my throat. Here's my viewpoint on the matter. Microsoft came with a goal in mind. They had a promise that they were going to fulfill. They immediately announced it at the beginning of their conference, and they fulfilled it. And they fulfilled it with very few problems. Everything flowed perfectly, at least the way I think that they imagined it, and it worked overall. And while they were doing that, it really feels like Nintendo and Sony were proverbially tripping over themselves in these regards. Nintendo could have had more reveals, but they didn't. They decided to focus on the two games. Sony could have done so much more with the time that was wasted moving between these new sets than actually just announcing games. Like the commentary team, again, I didn't like it. I think that was the wrong decision for them to make, and hence why they earned the third place spot, is that there was so much stuff that was awkward and weird with the Sony conference compared to the other two. I could at least say Nintendo had a flow to it. I can at least say Nintendo figured things out the way that they needed to. They just needed to add more to that. Sony, there was a good, I think when me and my wife timed it, it was like a good 30 to 40 minutes of just commentary stuff that wasn't relevant, that wasn't helping anything in that matter. So yeah, I'm going to give the winner this time around, I can't even believe I'm doing it, to Microsoft. They did what they said they were going to do, and that's what you needed to do. That's what they needed to do at that given moment. As far as the game developers, this is a little bit harder. I'm going to have a third place here, and it's actually going to go as a tie to EA and Ubisoft. My second place is going to go to Square Enix's showcase, and my first place is going to go to Bethesda. For as much as I said that Bethesda bored the crap out of me, they stayed on point, and they had announcements to make. Some of those announcements weren't complete. They decided to keep all the id stuff for QuakeCon 2018, but they still had stuff to talk about, and they stayed on point. Okay? I can't necessarily fault Bethesda for that. They hit all the points they needed to, including addressing the rumors of like Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 76, all that stuff. They addressed it. Square Enix did that to some extent too. The only thing that was disappointing about that is kind of like with Nintendo. They could have added so much more to that showcase to help it fill out 45 minutes to an hour that it would have been more worthwhile, but they still had a flow to it. EA was too busy apologizing for past sins, and Ubisoft was too busy being, well, too silly for their own good, as far as I'm concerned. That's why they get the tying third place, is that even though they had some good things to talk about and some good announcements to make, we also had those really odd moments of Just Dance 2019 and and the Trials guy tripping into the kiosk, and all of the apologizing for the microtransactions. And so it was very frustrating. Hence why I've made the announcements that I have, that I'm strongly considering whether or not to watch EA's or Ubisoft's conference next year. I have actually considered whether or not to just stick with the big three and go into those conferences, because I'll pretty much get the information that I need to get from them, that at least that I care about. I mean, maybe not this year. Neither of them covered Anthem, but neither of them needed to. They both had, well, Sony kind of did. It actually would have been better to have an Anthem trailer in between all of that, but that's what I'm saying, is like, I could have easily gotten that information from Microsoft's conference or from Sony's conference. I didn't need to sit through EA's and have to sit through all of the mistakes that they made, kind of thing. Now, granted, I would have missed all the positive stuff, but I'm pretty sure I would have caught that some way or another. So that's the way it goes. But overall, like I said, E3 2018 was pretty underwhelming this year. I can completely understand why some people were disappointed. But hopefully, for the majority of us, we at least got one announcement that we were looking forward to this year. And I think that's the best way to look at it, is you got that one thing that you can look forward to. I know Kingdom Hearts fans can rejoice. Their long wait is almost over. Resident Evil fans rejoice. You have Resident Evil 2 coming soon. Halo fans rejoice. Halo Infinite is being in the works. There's at least one thing that you can walk away with in this conference, and that's at least a positive. And I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up the E3 coverage. First of all, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I know that they've been kind of awkward as I'm kind of transitioning into new things, and I know that a few people have been frustrated with a lot of the announcements that have been made on the channel recently. And it's not that I'm out there to personally frustrate you, it's just things need to change. But I thank you nonetheless for your continued love, patience, support, all of the stuff that you've shown for us. If you like what I did for these vlogs, maybe they can return in this format and we can have more casual conversations together. I really do love and appreciate what you guys have to say and want to engage with you guys. So feel free to be able to do so, but I think that's going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys so much, and we will be back to regular coverage on the channel next week.